Are back here, NAL, Doa, Cookies, and Jacob here with you at the desk. And it's time to move on to our second match of the day. It's going to be Space Station Gaming taking on Mirage. Now, Space Station, of course, pretty powerful roster to look at in general. It seems like Mirage kind of coming up. Lots of changes on that squad. You know, they didn't get the win yesterday. They're still kind of working some things out a little bit. But Jacob, I wanted to throw this one to you first. You kind of had this phrase. You were calling Space Station best of one kings. You want to explain that a little bit more?
Well, over the course of last year, in the two stages they played with a full five-man, they were only defeated twice. Of course, one of them was a forfeit loss. I think Beast Coast one time wasn't able to play back in stage 2, but still manifested every win except 2 in all the games they played, which is nice in contrast to their international competition. Though it's not quite the same thing because they've at least made playoffs every time, but they've still not been able to break through a really solid lower bracket run, if nothing else. They were first SI or first North American team knocked out of this most recent 6 Invitational, so they're good domestically. They're fantastic. Internationally, they haven't been able to make the conversion yet.
All right. Well, I suppose as far as the NAL goes, that's all you need to be to do well here.
For this? Yeah.
But what's the point of doing well here if you aren't taken to the international stage, right?
Right. But I think it's important to not overreact in that regard, too.
Sure.
If you're Dark Zero preaches about how they're always just trying to improve and this, and that. Maybe SSG, maybe I'm just not noticing it, but it seems like they're really hard on themselves. Maybe we're hard on them.
Yeah.
And it's like, just because they didn't win, they may be a little down in the dumps a little too much. It's like, it's hard to win a championship. And this is a different minutes, different times. They just need to adapt to the times.
Maybe. Well, we're going to have to see how they adapt to the map that they're going to plan, because we're going to find out what map that is right now. Let's go through it, see what the bans are, and see where we end up.
Well, I think bar none, Space Station's best map over the past couple months has been Villa, so I think that'll be something that if they can get, they'll try, and Mirage will do their best to stay away from. They actually banned Cafe, a pretty average map overall. We've seen them play it several times, and yeah, Mirage don't want Villa, so they will take that straight away, as will Clubhouse, 2 maps that we already know Space Station themselves are very good at. It's a little difficult to figure out what Mirage's ban tendencies are going to be, because in spite of having the same coach and 2 similar players, they may completely change some things up. The new maps, again, it seems like every ban phase, they always kind of go towards the end of the ban rotation a little bit, but both Border and Skyscraper are now gone, so there might be more of a willingness to at least try those ones out if it means banning established maps against your opponents.
Right.
No Chalet, which means it's still stuck now. We could see Theme Park, or instead, we'll have Bank back in the picture, so that'll be the second time that Space Station play it in 2 days. That is in fact the case. So no Theme Park. It seems like we're in a situation where Mirage are just banning out the maps they know Space Station are very good at, but it still kind of leaves Bank on the table, which now, after yesterday, Space Station have a winning record on since stage 3.
Right. It's kind of back to the Bank basics. Good for Space Station, good for Mirage. What do you think, Cookies?
It's kind of mid for both.
Okay.
Because you've got both of them played yesterday, right?
Yep.
Thing is, I don't know who's better coaching staff. Who watched the VOD better and is going to be able to apply lessons from it better, because that's clearly both teams were going for. You can make the argument for either team, like, oh, we saw their bank yesterday. Let's just try our hand at it. I think we could beat that. I mean, SSG probably saw, I really highlighted the Clash strat from Mirage on the top floor and CEO in the stock hallway. SSG saw that, they're probably like, oh, okay, we know how to counter that. Let's play bank.
Just don't do that ourselves. Yeah.
Right.
Well, let's dive into a little bit more. Let's talk about these teams individually. Let's talk about Space Station Gaming specifically. So this is a team, again, we've already been chatting about a little bit. They got their win yesterday on Bank. So is it kind of just maintained now, or do you feel like they need to bring kind of a little bit of a different mindset against Mirage, who may, still has a little bit of an unknown factor to them that's slipping away, but it's still kind of there. So if you're Space Station, how do you approach that here?
I mean, we kind of heard it from Hot and Cold yesterday, where he mentioned going into a match where you literally don't know how the other team is going to play.
Right.
More means that you have to stick to the things that you know, and you'll see how the other team responds to that. Now, Mirage aren't in nearly as weird of a position as XSET, because we can assume some of their coaching fundamentals are still intact, as are what those 2 players who are still left on this team are going to carry over into this season. But I think they still can keep playing their own game. You're not so much worried about what your opponent looks like, especially with them knowing that in the back of their minds, Mirage probably isn't the world's strongest team in the first place. So Space Station, they just got to keep on doing what they did yesterday, and they're going to be totally fine in this matchup, at least on paper.
Also think on video, and logically, XSET was doing a whole lot of, I talked to Totten in an interview, it's like full court pressing. They're throwing impacts and denying them from simply walking into top square on basement defense.
I remember that, yeah.
Right, so big question, can Mirage actually match that energy that XSET was putting out? Because XSET has established synergy, believe it or not, from those guys playing together before in CL teams forever ago and whatever, and being friends forever.
Yeah.
Mirage, that's not the case. These guys are just kind of hodgepodge a little bit. Maybe Thomas and Razor, but after that, there's a lot of question marks in terms of how much synergy is really, truly established from Mirage. And I don't know if they can match what XSET did yesterday.
We'll dive into that a little bit more in a moment. For now, we see Skies making the chair swap. Is that going to be the key to success today? Is it the new chair?
I mean, I think so far these chairs are 2-0 against players because I think I just now saw Lycan's tweet saying that Marmalade fell prey to one of them earlier. So
dangerous chairs out there apparently. But let's check out the stats for Skies here. He has conquered multiple chairs going into this match. Apparently, it's pretty decent stats, good cost it seems like. And what are they going to be relying on him for most in this map?
Ability to crawl back into rounds. That basement round alongside Bosco was just absolutely insane. That's the round from yesterday sticks out to me. That's the gameplay from yesterday sticks out to me. Those two together, you can never really count them out. A lot of teams would be just jealous to have them in their backcourt like this. Look at the operators he's playing Mav. I'd kill to have Skies as my breach. But yeah, that also he kind of doesn't have to worry about being the IGL anymore. That's a little bit of stress off his shoulders, That's a
that flank watch transition looks like it's working already. Like the fact that Bosco can play backline and worry about shot calling is nice because Skies has skills that he's been able to showcase on other teams before. But over the course of his SSG tenure, it's just kind of been, can he do what Canadian was doing from a support IGL role? And now, because that responsibility has been shirked, it's been traded off, I think Skies has the chance to pop off more, which is interesting considering he was already doing that back when he was playing support. He was like the second highest rated, like right below Foxay in terms of North American teams, domestically and internationally, and that trend just continues here, which is really nice to see.
Just enabled more. So Space Station with a lot going for them, but they got an opponent, of course, in this match. It's going to be Mirage. Mirage, a team that went through quite a few changes here. Didn't get the win yesterday, but they're still such a new squad. It's hard to really kind of get a read on what this team is capable of. We know they have a lot of positive leadership in Tomas, but what else does this team have going for it?
Right now, not a whole lot. Benjamin, just kidding.
Okay.
Benjamin Currency.
All right.
Benjamin
Harsh,
Currency.
man. That's harsh.
Benjamin Currency is what they got going for him.
Okay.
He played well yesterday. Maybe got some eggs or frags or two. But Benji played well. Something we've been waiting on for a while. What I really want to look at is Razor, though. Razor, he had a couple rounds where he was flying around. I believe there's one round he flew around square and killed Canadians walking in a top square.
Yeah.
But otherwise it was like he really disappeared for huge swaths of the game. And I think if they want a shot in hell at beating Space Station Gaming, after showing the map yesterday, Razor's gonna have to play probably one of his best games ever.
Yeah, I think that whole problem with him being like perhaps the best player on a really bad XSET roster from last year is nice when you consider it in isolation, but in the broader context of kind of what he's trying to do, a lot of Razor was playing Mav, playing Mozzie, trying to be that disruptive roam presence and that secondary hard breach kind of thing. It's a cool thing to try, but against a team like Dark Zero, it wasn't really ever going to be successful. What you mentioned about the energy of Space Station, this is a completely different beast. Both of them, we call them like the strategy kings in Dark Zero and Space Station respectively, but SSG execute on it in a very, very different way, and Razor can't be the only guy trying to like hold firm against the tidal wave that is Space Station in that regard.
Well, let's go into that a little bit more. Let's talk about Razor. Let's look at some stats, because again, this is another player that on a mechanics level, a lot of people are still excited to have in the league. Maybe to a certain extent, freeing himself from XSET prison, in the old roster, able to find a place to excel a bit more, perhaps on Mirage, but, not getting it done yet, but there's a lot of, again, here's the esports buzzword, potential.
Oh, no, he said it.
It's potential. I know.
This is the first time I've looked at a stat, and it's actually kind of perplexing to me. 4 kills, 3 of them were opening kills. Ain't that funny?
Oh, curious.
I mean, he had cool early rounds. I mean, obviously he died early a couple times there, too.
Yeah.
That was it. He only had one other kill in the mid-round or late round. Like, that's kind of crazy to think about.
Playing Mav Mozzie, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, what? That's that. The first time a stat kind of has stumped me a little.
That's where you just kind of say one map. One map. And you just kind of leave it at that, right? Because it's the beginning of the stage, it's the beginning of the season. It's, you don't want to read too much into it, right? And obviously, like, the internet loves to do that. Fans in any sport, whether it's E or traditional, love to read into any sort of numbers they can get immediately, but, it's only one map.
Right, but it's still going to be the case of him doing the same job on the same map, because we're going back to the same battleground as yesterday where that stat did rear its ugly head. So unless they're going to go through some big shakeup, which I don't think they're going to do, Razor still is probably going to be one of those defensive front lines, probably with a guy like Benji to back him up, especially if they're working on castle rotates on bank. If they want to play up top and try to waste time, then we'll probably see him in that same position again.
All right, cool. Well, it's time for everybody's favorite part of the pre-match. It's time for some predictions. That's right. Let's find out if the casters and the analysts are going to be able to call this one correctly. Not the greatest record for everyone so far, I gotta say, but Blue, Stokes, you're sitting over there waiting to get started. Do you have an idea about who you're gonna pick for this one?
Well, I ended up going against Space Station yesterday, and I don't think I can make the same mistake again today, especially considering all the circumstances in this matchup. So it's going to be a pretty safe, quick lock-in for Space Station for me, as I'm hoping that they repeat their success against Exit.
I am just really hoping that this coin picks Mirage so that I can at least be equal with it once again. I'm back at a deficit. I'm trying to come back. I got to pick Space Station Gaming.
All right, makes sense. So Space Station Gaming, 2 quick picks for our casters. No big surprise there. We won't bug you about that much anymore, but we'll get back to you in a few minutes. Now it's time to ask the analysts. The analysts, Space Station seems like the logical way to go, but then again, logic doesn't seem to apply so far this week in match results, so...
For some of them, yeah, but there are some things that held true. Dark Zero still beat Mirage. Space Station still beat Exet. I think the ones that were essentially foregone conclusions before the day began were the ones that held true. So I'll still go as Space Station because that Mirage team didn't really do anything to impress, and that Space Station team rolled over a squad that very clearly didn't have IGL problems. So maybe Mirage will do one round better than Exet, if anything.
All right, Cookies.
Also, we're talking about kind of being perplexed about all these results. It's mainly Sonic's fault. They're the ones that are losing. I mean, they're responsible for most of my percentage deficit here. So I blame them. I think SSG, though, and versus Mirage, this one's easy to call.
2 more for SSG. And, like I said before, heads is going to be Space Station. Tails is going to be Mirage, because that's the way they are on the graphics, so that's the way the coin is going to be decided. For the record, I always flip the coin with heads up. That's the way it is every time. I wanted to keep the, in science, you want to have, control things. You want to have, consistency, right? So here we go.
That's the one variable.
It is heads. Okay. There it is. You can see it on your screen, heads. Space Station Gaming. The coin apparently trying to get above 50%, but I feel like it shouldn't because it's a coin. It should be exactly 50%, right? That should be the baseline. But then again, ominous things have been happening. You just never know, right? So
Jesse's going to get to this desk next week, and it's going to be cursed already. Good grief.
It's going to be like that community gif, right? Where he walks in and everything's on fire. But let's take a look at the community poll here going into this series. See what question you out there have to mull over, consider, deduce your answer for. It's going to be, who's going to be the top fragger in this match? Is it going to be Skies or is it going to be Benji? You can let us know on the socials. And on that note, it's time for us to take a quick break. And when we come back, Space Station Gaming versus Mirage. It's going to be a great map. Don't miss it. We'll be back in a few here on NAL.
Benji Bula.
My name is Marmalade.
My name is Melted.
I'm Tomas.
Hey, I'm Razor. I play primary entry for Mirage.
I play Flank Watch for Mirage Esports.
I'm the flex player in IGL for Mirage.
I play hard support for Mirage Esports.
And I'm the second entry for Mirage. So our game plan as a team is kind of just build up the trust and chemistry. We're a brand new team with 3 new players.
Coming from Exet to Mirage, Exet, they got a nice purse. So we lived in a really nice house. Exet was family. Mirage, I hope to build something like that here. That's the plan, that's the goal.
The experiences since joining Mirage it's been enlightening because on Parabellum, we on paper, we seemed fine, but internally it wasn't working out. I left the team with no offers, but I found a home in Mirage and the guys have been great to me and we're working through our new problems and it's been fun. The guys are just great.
When Dream and Newers left, Dream left a big gap in our roster and we couldn't really replace him, but we could try to build someone and try to blue out his role because Dream was a big part of Mirage.
Obviously, he's an amazing teammate. Everybody loves Dream. It definitely sucked to see him leave. It was and was not expected. It's kind of hard. I don't know. It's teams are making changes. Dream's a great player. Just the vibes he brings and who he is as a person, I kind of expected him to get an offer. So it sucks, but we'll work around it. We have good new players to fill his role.
Picking up Marmalade was a good pickup. I think we were the only Pro League team that tried her out. She did well. She's willing to get better. Razor, the same thing. He's always watching the VODs back. He's always watching his scrims back. So I like when I look to my left and look to my right, I see teammates grinding like inside the scrims and outside the scrims.
So the team I was on before for stage 3 of CL was Nocturnes. The transition's been, I think it's been fun. It's been a learning experience. I mean, I'm living with 5 other guys, so I mean, it's definitely different. It's really enjoyable, and like I'm learning new things every day.
So with the roster changes, it's a whole new team. When we decided to kind of shift away from the old roster, our feelings was more that we were just very stagnant and sticking to our strats instead of being able to adapt and just go wherever the action is. The additions of Razor Marmalade and Melted, they're players that can fit more with the meta and have the ability to adapt, whereas the old roster, we kind of realized that we needed to shift some things around, and we made the changes that will best give us the ability to play in the meta.
Our new identity is I think it's gonna be more aggressive. I mean, we have a lot younger players this season than they did last season on the team.
Most surprising roster change would probably have to be OXG gaining Dream from Mirage.
I've seen Dream's exit coming, really. I would say Dream is really a really good support player, and he grew a lot under Mirage rather than under Tempo. I think Tempo was a crappy situation for him because he didn't really like show his like real strength. I think Mirage really showed it, like the team-wise.
Forest to Astralis, all of Beast Coast being replaced besides Anthony. The XSET changes, that's going to be a crazy team in the future, I think. Parabellum has changes as well. We have Melted from Parabellum, so.
Probably the OXG roster change.
OXG like with Kino and Yog leaving and joining XSET, because they took the 2 players that we had Dream, and then we also had Newers during a trial phase. It was kind of a weird segment for us because, you know, Dream was one of our staple players of Mirage. I'm happy for Mitch, but it's kind of like, wow, like, yeah, that just happened. So that was kind of like a big change in my opinion, or a surprise.
When I first heard about it, when XSET was looking at acquiring Spirits back in the day, when I heard about the roster, it kind of shocked me. I was like, that's not really there's no real IGL, or it's all a bunch of good, well-rounded fraggers. I feel like you always need direction on the team, and a team without direction isn't really a good team, you know?
Being honest, like, this is like building a new team. It's not easy, but it's not hard. You just gotta like have the players like put in effort, and they've been putting in a lot of effort.
Things I need to work on, I mean, just keep motivated, like just keep working, keep grinding, like make sure my attitude's in check, you know, make sure I'm being the best teammate I can be.
It doesn't feel real. I thought like getting to Vegas would like make it feel real, but it still kind of feels like a fairy tale in a sense. And like getting here, I mean, it was hard, you know, especially because I'm a woman. I think it was definitely harder for me, not getting the same opportunities as some other people. But I mean, in the end, it was all worth it. So
it's exciting to just give these new people a chance and see what they can do. Hopefully, build the roster with them, and just we have a lot more. I wouldn't say room for error, but just room to let them improve and show their full capabilities on whatever role they may be on, and just grow as a team.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to get started with match number 2 of the day, and one that's bound to be quite an exciting one, as it'll be a rerun on the map side for both of these teams comparing to their match yesterday. We've got Space Station up against Mirage, and it's bound to be quite a show. Space Station struggling at the outset of their initial game yesterday versus Exit, but rebounding beautifully after the first 2 rounds. And similarly, we saw the members of Mirage try to put up their best effort, but sadly not to be enough at the end of the day, with Benji having the standout performance among the rest of those players. Stokes, let's start talking a little bit about your expectations for this matchup, as we're getting very close, and you can see Mirage is making their final preparations and making their final huddle right now.
It's going to be a hard call for me. I mean, personally, obviously, I picked Space Station Gaming for this matchup, and obviously we all did. You know, walking into this, I think it's a very difficult day for Mirage. There's a lot on their plate. I mean, you have 2 new members coming in, you're adjusting strategies, you're trying to make everybody feel comfortable, and now you're going to have back-to-back days where you're playing against some of the best inside of North America. And yet again, you're going to have to do it yet again today. And you're going up against SSG, who had that clutch factor yesterday. And that's the big thing that's very, very scary as of right now. SSG's looking very dynamic early on inside of the stage, and you really can't say the same for Mirage.
The good news, or kind of the double-edged sword of this situation, as you may have heard Exit talking about yesterday, is that yes, Mirage are going to have these fairly difficult matches to start out their season, but things, well, in their opinion, probably get a little bit easier from that point forward, as they're playing against these very high echelon teams now. They're really testing the full breadth of their squad's power, what potential issues are going to pop up against that caliber of team, and then they can use the rest of the stage to kind of make adjustments, get themselves into a much better position, be prepared to fight against teams that are more kind of on their level here as they get later and later into the stage. Either way, though, they're still going to look for victory here today, and we'll have to wait and see if they can grab it for themselves. Another player that we're going to be looking to see improved performance out of on the Mirage side, you probably heard the analysis desk talking about it quite a bit, was Razor. This guy was the mainstay, and oftentimes the player that on X-Set the entire team looked to clutch out or pick up a consistent number of frags inside of any tense situation. I think that it's a very good possibility he's going to become a similar player here on the Mirage roster as well. So we need to see something better than we saw yesterday, if that's going to be the case.
I absolutely agree. I will say this for both teams, doing a very bang-up job of, you know, working their way through the ban phase. Both of them ending up on the same map, as you said, from yesterday. So not really showing too much to other squads, and could also put Mirage in a better spot mentally. They've already been here, and now they just have to cross the bridge yet again, just against a different team. So we'll have to see how it goes. But either way, we're into the lobby now, and Mirage will be starting us out here with the defensive, or rather their offensive set of bans. SSG has already taken out Zero.
Zero making perfect sense. He's become a bit of a mainstay when it comes to certain attacker lineups on this map. The intel from those Argus cams, especially in the front lobby area, similarly to Valkyrie cams, in fact, can be quite useful and quite pesky to deal with from the defensive side of things. So oftentimes it'll be better to remove it for maps like this than leave it in play and potentially cause mistakes in the middle of the round. So speaking of Valkyrie, we are going to see her get knocked out first on the defensive side as well. That'll be Mirage's final ban alongside Thatcher, of course. There's no surprise there. And then finally we get SSG's last pick, and they're going to knock out Echo.
Some very interesting bans coming from SSG's side. I definitely like the Echo ban coming out here. We see a lot of play from that operator here on Bank, and we saw it yesterday as well, just trying to deny things, mostly on Skies, where we saw him utilize that, I believe, upstairs, but most definitely downstairs for their basement defense. So either way, as we hop into round 1 here, obviously Mirage will be starting out on this offensive side. Don't pay too much attention to this reveal phase, although it really isn't a reveal phase anymore. It's just more for us to see the operator lineup, since we don't even have a reveal phase anymore, folks. We have attacker repick nowadays, and that's what we'll be looking to see if Mirage want to abuse here inside of the prep phase.
So for Mirage, we'll see if they're going to potentially change anything up. More than likely, they've got the correct lineup in order to approach this, though plenty of soft breach coming out from Tomas there to be able to open up the top-down angles that'll be needed, and those will be fairly minimal on a basement attack anyway. And away from that, of course, the 2 hard breachers. We are going to see it stylistically get changed, though, as Marm is going to move from the Habana over to the Thermite instead, just to make that job of opening up the hatches a little bit more straightforward, as they probably won't have to mess around with the complexities of the X-Kairos, and instead can speed things up a little bit. So we'll see how that all pans out, as aside from that, no additional switch-ups for Mirage. Now they're spawned out and locked in, so let's see how they approach tearing apart this defensive setup from SSG.
And this is not looking like anything we saw from SSG yesterday either. So this is going to be a new look from Mirage that they're going to have to attempt to figure out, as SSG is actually going to be holding on to open area with some reinforcements pointed towards the bottom of square. A mirror window here to assist and just make things a little bit more complicated for Mirage overall. Other mirror window obviously downstairs inside of Red Hallway.
So Aside from that, though, no huge surprises coming out inside of the first 30 seconds. Mirage going to continue to look for their opening opportunities just to take that upper second floor map control. And we can see Benji leaning in a position to do that now. Tomas has already cleared things out in the meanwhile, as you can see, over towards the inside of CEO and the surrounding rooms there. And now their focus will shift to clearing out the interior of the open area, as long as to try and negotiate that for themselves at some point here over the next 30 seconds.
Ooh, that nitro cell very close, but luckily enough, Thomas able to get out of dodge. But not the same can be said about Melted, as they'll lose him pretty early on here, and this could be a narrative that we see strung along here in round one, as this is quite the important hard breach to the overall story. Definitely going to be needing him to get these hatches, as the Electro Claws of Fultz are already allocated to those positions. It's been a fantastic hold from SSG so far, as they're just going to rest on their laurels, John. There's really not much to do here. Just dwindle down this timer and let Mirage just sit on this offense and waste it.
As you said, the setup here is going to be something a bit new from SSG, and one that Mirage is, as you can see, struggling quite a bit to tear apart in terms of even just how they approach it. They're still stuck up on the top square side right now. Another drone is going to come in. They actually haven't used a lot of their pull right now. As you can see, 7 still available at the top right side of the screen. So plenty of chances in order to get this intel in. As far as time is concerned, things are going to start to get a little more drastic for Mirage if they can't clear these players out. But that will begin to change as Tomas strikes true, and Razor is going to find one through one of the basement hatches as well. That'll be hot and cold down on the ground. Not confirmed just yet, but Razor shouldn't have too much of a problem with it by chucking in that nade there.
Yeah, almost used the Gone 6 there for just a split second, but instead tries to allocate the frag grenade. Hot and cold, though, will still not be picked up with that. Finally, I believe that's a second frag coming out from Razor, and yes, indeed, it is. So using up both of those, but Tomas still has some, so he'll chuck them down blue stairs. Has some SSG presence inside of server, though. He'll have to worry about the swing with that M590. Holding steadfast at this position. Can he get the first one? It's going to be the clone, as it's going to be a drop shot here from Tommy, but Benji's going to take out Tommy as well. What's going on? Bosco's gotten space now inside of server yet again. Can he win out the engagement on the bottom of blue, as Razor's locked in at a 2-0, but he'll need 4 kills now in order to get this done. Won't be able to secure it, and Bosco, as well as the rest of SSG, cool, calm, and collected in round 1.
Mirage fumbling there at the final seconds of the round, trying to work their way down to the inside of security with at least 1 team kill transpiring out of that firefight there. Just not able to get themselves down through the bottom of blue. The cutoffs coming in from SSG as soon as they realized that was the play were far too quick and far too lethal, despite Mirage's best efforts. And as well, the decent clear of the open area hold that had also been delaying their time bank down by quite a bit. All built up for nothing, as it all fell apart, unfortunately, as they attempted to move downstairs with minimal time remaining. Decent build-up for Mirage up until that point, however, so I think that there's hope for the future still, especially as we now shift to that very room that became the focus of the previous round, as we'll now see SSG select open area.
Seems like it's going to be played out pretty similarly to what we saw previously as well, with Hot and Cold allocating a lot of the kitchen walls right now. Kind of a spread defense here with Skies up towards the front of the lobby. Might just be looking for drones, though. It's a pretty commonplace thing, especially for somebody like Pulse. Don't really have too much site setup to do when you're a character like that. Yeah, you can help with reinforcements, but past that, you're really not doing anything. You got an ump and a nitro cell, so either way, it's going to be up to the shotguns to clear out a lot of these newfound angles that SSG will look to abuse, like we're seeing right here. This is actually going to be a gorgeous setup that Hot and Cold and the rest of SSG have procured, especially with these lines that Fultz has put down to archives. This is going to make it super difficult for Mirage to do anything to this Mira setup at all. They put any hard breach down or anything, somebody's going to lose their life or lose that piece of utility. And speaking of losing lives, Benji's blown sky high early on, and actually it's like kind of a callback to SI, I do believe, where we saw the castle barricade in that exact same position take somebody out. So already early days for SSG, as they've been able to knock down Mirage by 1.
And a pretty pivotal player going down too. Benji Mula, easily the most impactful player in Mirage's game yesterday versus Dark Zero, so him getting knocked out this early in the round, not the greatest sign. Obviously, again, doesn't have any kills inside of this game so far, so isn't translating too well just yet, but it's also very early days. Well, we've only played 1 round, so plenty of time to change that up. Either way, though, Mirage are not going to pull any punches now that they have lost one of their most pivotal players. They are quickly looking for an exchange if one can be found, and Tomas is certainly going to try to volley that as he swings out towards Jay, actually given a second chance at life, though, as he should have been dead for sure with Rampy being in that position. However, not able to connect all the necessary bullets, so Tomas survives and nearly manages to take Bosco out on his way down through the square hop.
Now Mirage have found some space inside of Square, but Hot and Cold yet again able to take down Tomas, and well, it'll be a trade back and forth as Razor will be able to pick him up. But Mirage, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Castle barricade here, they'll be able to go on this, might go for the rush here, but Marmalade feels as though they need more info, and I would have to agree. You still have half the round, and yes, it's a 3 versus 4, but that's completely doable, especially given the circumstances of Bosco in this position right now. Not the best crosses to be able to be picked up from SSG unless they go right inside of that castle door and telestrate it well. Either way, Mirage more than likely will be able to pick off one inside of this engagement if it does go down that way, but it really is just up to Mirage in the way they want to try and play this out.
Bosco going to be a little bit nervous about his position now due to the drone that came in through the copier window a few seconds prior here. He's, of course, still having to watch out through this mirror window as well as the big wrap through the double door. Marm, what a shot, though. Knock it out, Rampy on a pixeled angle. Takes him down, and that evens the numbers out into a 3v3. Still under a minute to go, though. Mirage need to make up the pressure, need to force their way into the site here soon, and they may be very well leaning their way into it. Bosco still holding them back however long he's going to be able to maintain this position, however, so things will hold up still for Mirage as long as that remains the case. Away from that, Fultz and Skies also still a factor inside of this. Razor trying to hunt out the player behind this wall, and finally he'll succeed in getting it. Bosco goes down. Melted will be caught trying to move back up the stairs. That'll be a good rotate from Fultz in order to catch him. Marm still in the midst of a plant, and this should go off without too much of an issue, so it's going to fall to the retake from SSG to clutch this round out for themselves.
Oh, Skies with a beautiful shot. Almost thought it was Fultz for a split second, but now it's down to Razor to clutch this out. He's got fantastic positioning. He'll be able to take down Fultz. It's a triple for him. It'll be a quad on the round if he's able to secure it. Skies with the off angle, not able to connect with Razor, and what a shot from the young gun as he'll take down the SSG member and grant Mirage their very first round.
That's the Razor we know. That's the Razor we were seeing on XSET last year, bringing a massive performance to the table. And as you said, a quad kill to save his team inside of this round and put them on the board to even us up at a 1-1 scoreline.
You have to say this as well. With that cross that we saw, I was very, very scared for Mirage pushing into Kitchen because of Rampy's positioning, but Marmalade dealt with that so very well to be able to think ahead that far and know that that's more than likely the position that you're going to see someone, especially in open area with those terrible, terrible angles that you have to deal with through like the little, cubicles and stuff like that. Nobody likes an office job, and it's because of those stupid things, you know what I mean? So having to deal with those in that environment, I mean, it's just such a hard task, and to hit a shot like that, that's what we want to see out of Marm.
So it's another round, another new sight from SSG as they're not going to go for the repeat downstairs inside of open area. Instead, a second floor hold will be in the cards for them as they move themselves up to the inside of CEO and Projector to try and maintain this site.
All right, well, what is going on here, my friend? Let's do some diagnostics, shall we? Do you have that little what's that thing that doctors wear around their neck that I can't think of right now?
Stethoscope?
Thank you, a stethoscope. See, I could never have a PhD or be smart. Anyways, lots of ADSs as well as a mute jammer stacked here. With the deployable shield, this is something we saw quite often for banks throughout SI, where people really like defending this elevator hallway and making things a little bit more complex when it comes to the square take. This also makes it to where Janitor is a little bit easier to set in just because you have somebody manning the door. You don't have to worry about anybody running up and bouncing a nade off of it or trying to peek it and get deeper sight lines into the actual site. So for SSG, it's definitely going to be a solid hold and a little bit of a sneaky beaky play going down with hot and cold all the way in the basement. I'm interested to see what his primary is in this situation, but either way, he's got that SMG 11, and in the proper hands, that thing can tear anybody apart.
Still going to be a lot of focus on this rappel, as you might have come to expect if you've seen any attack on this site previously. So once again, Tomas will be maintaining his position on the rappel in order to keep that pressure going, and Razor will certainly be trying to contribute to that as well. Aside from that, we've got Fultz having overwatch over the stock play. Should we attempt to see members of the attacking squad work their way in here, and they are certainly doing so, with 2x Kairos bleeding out as the defenders at the same time will have to counter that with the impacts they have available. Both have now been used. There's plenty of additional X Kairos in Marm's pocket, so she's going to be able to throw 2 more out, and that will expose Fultz's position as he is out of those impact grenades and can no longer do anything about this, unfortunately.
But here's the thing about that. Past this is also the time. 1:30 already gone from Mirage's offensive clock, and now for SSG, they can simply waltz back towards site and see if they can win this out on the timer. Just continue to apply pressure when you can, just like this with Fultz. He's found the gap. He's going to work his way back in towards stock, more than likely knowing that Mirage don't have an eye on on this position. He can get away with a lot here. This is getting very risky for Mirage. Somebody needs to have a sixth sense, but I don't think that they know that he's worked his way into stock now. I don't believe there's a drone in this space, and Marmalade's going to lose her life because of it. That's Case down outside, and Benji has to try and pick up the pieces.
That's sneaky from Fultz, and indeed, Benji moving over is going to try to get back Case control. Fultz, thankfully, is long gone at this point here. He'll have rotated back out to the safety of the outer wall by Stocks here. He does have an angle on the window, though, so Benji still needs to be a bit careful. Thankfully, retrieves without too much of an issue, and now Tomas, elsewhere on the map, has been able to find the first exchange downstairs in open area by taking out Skies.
Fantastic positioning
nice
now for both of these teams. Benji especially, as he'll work his way back in for square. He'll light up Fultz, but Fultz, he's steadfast in the position outside of stock, holding onto that deployable shield for as long as he possibly can. Damage coming in onto Bosco as well now, but it's mostly Benji getting lit up towards top square. Hot and Cold currently inside of Checkers will be manning the front spiral stairwells. We have another Mirage member trying to make their way in, as well as one on Repel, and that's going to be two over towards square as well. Make that one as Fultz will take them down, and the rest of Mirage has fallen to pieces. It's going to be up to Razor, but he can't get it done this time around. SSG with two.
SSG just with so much consistent pressure, constantly bearing out against Mirage's attempts to get even an inch of control across this map, and that compounded on top of the fact that, again, we see that Repel squad not really able to accomplish a whole lot in terms of countering that pressure by forcing players inside of the site to move around or just be forced into awkward scenarios. It's an easy day at the ball game for SSG to run out and shut down the attack in those final few seconds of the round. 2-1 now as the lead is secured once again for SSG, but will it stay that way as we're going to be heading back downstairs into the basement where, to be fair, did find success back on round number 1.
It seemed as though Mirage didn't have a game plan for taking control of the site inside of that situation. It was very default across the board. They try and deal with the stock position. They go for the X-Kairos play and just clear things out from the other end. Able to get rid of the Mute Jammer very quickly, so that was at least good. But past that, I mean, Fultz wasted so much time and still got a kill on top of that. That's way too much value coming from one player inside of that position especially. And Mirage really didn't have a game plan past that to take control of square. They really just threw everything at every side of the site they possibly could, including the windows on the north-hand side, and none of it really got them anything. SSG only loses one member, and then when the load time execute comes out, they just simply win all of the gunfights.
So let's see here now if SSG is going to be able to keep their success rolling, keep the pressure up, and more importantly, keep Mirage out of the building and out of close proximity to the site so they can easily negotiate round number 3. Mirage, though, certainly building up good presence, it seemed, in the last attempt here, just falling apart again in those final few seconds of the round as they, similarly to the previous round, didn't seem to have a great plan to approach the site and kind of fumble trying to transition from the first down to that lower floor here. These extended games from SSG constantly wasting not only time, but player count from the Mirage roster, and this is causing them, unfortunately, to fall into pit holes where they no longer have much of a chance to close out the round unless someone goes huge with a clutch.
Well, we have quite a few members on both of these teams that are highly capable of a situation like that. We'll see if that rears its head soon. Could be possibly here in round 4 as Benji is already traversing the top floor and has the opportunity to take somebody out inside of the elevator, but all of his shots spray wide. SSG will be able to rotate back down to the second level and continue to thwart this clear of the map. A nitro cell out for Hot and Cold, but it'll land on deaf ears as a Mirage member has already transitioned over towards main stairs. Hot and Cold, I believe he's going to take some damage from one of his teammates there, but still alive to tell the tale.
And now, not only that, but more than alive as well. Able to frag out and return the damage back onto one of the members of Mirage. Melted ends up going down. Still no kills for him, and the same can be said for Benji, who was the shining star for this team versus Dark Zero yesterday. So a 5v4 advantage. Yes, there's some good damage that's been done, of course, to Houghton from his teammate, and Fultz also being lit up a little bit lower, but none of that is translatable at this point in the round here. You still have members of SSG maintaining presence in the open area. That's what Tomas is now going to be trying to open up from stock side to get a better view of what's going on down there. But still, they're going to need another 30 seconds minimum just to get into a position where they feel comfortable to flush these players out. And even then, that's only going to leave them with like 40 or so seconds to pull off the same thing from round number 1, make that transition downstairs, get themselves in through security, and then still plant the bomb on site. This is going to be a very, very tight margin of time for Mirage to try and play through.
Absolutely, and it's looking like they might make a similar play for the kitchen space like they did previously when we actually had staff as the site, but they need to do whatever they're going to do quickly. That's the big thing. They'll be able to take down Rampy. Bosco still inside of staff as of right now, just bouncing back and forth between angles, but not before he's discovered by Razor. Will take him down as well. Tomas, he's getting lit up, but it's down to Marm to get this wall open as Mirage. They've simply struck gold when it comes to the kill department. SSG now down 3 members. Hot and Cold still lit up from the earlier engagement, has not died, but now Skies, he's here to make a grand stand if possible. Still has that nitro cell in his back pocket, and he could play spoils.
He's going to need to use it in a second as well as the first plant attempt is going to roll out. Skies sees it gets canceled. He does have partial view onto Marm right now, but the nitro is out, and it sings true. But at the same time, the utility's there from the attackers as well, and they had already dealt with the second other member that was still alive from SSG, so taking out Skies behind the mirror window is just one more nade away, as once again, Mirage trade out these rounds, find success on their own regard, and keep this game even versus Space Station.
A very scrappy bank between these two, and a pretty cool, calm, and collected Mirage as well. The previous round with their upstairs attack, that kind of, stylistic decision really didn't work out for them. There was no decisive play going on. But inside of this previous round, it actually assisted them a lot just because of how many members of SSG were off-site. Mirage were able to take their time and make SSG quite antsy in certain, situations, especially for the kills that Razor was able to secure. Nobody really finding a gunfight against Razor. It was more him discovering the defensive members and able to take them down. So fantastic stuff for Mirage inside of that one, and hopefully they can try and recreate that as SSG's back inside of staff.
So with Mirage rebounding yet again, and already we're seeing Mirage return to a site, or rather SSG returns to a site. That Mirage was able to close out once before. This is good news for the Mirage fans at home, as that slow play seems to be working out. The initial clear is a bit forceful in order to get the more obvious extension from SSG out of the way, but then able to use that remaining 2 minutes or so to be able to slowly bleed out information. And as you saw there, surgically execute that first floor hold from the members of SSG. Going to be a little bit more difficult to pull off this time, as obviously there's a bit more in terms of defensive utility and reinforcements holding control over this site. But either way, Mirage seems to have found a winning formula. Now it's just about applying it to all these different sites here for the last 2 rounds.
Yes, indeed. And we could see a big switch up for here for Mirage as well, just given Melted's current position. 0-4 at the moment. If he starts getting on this scoreboard, we could see Mirage actually start running away with this in a certain capacity. So we'll keep you guys updated on that situation as we continue on with the game here. About 45 seconds off the board here for round 5 as Mirage begin their top clear yet again. Razor at the helm as he'll work his way through CEO and into the executive office. His entire top floor has been cleared out, so should make it relatively easy for him to continue his info game down to the second level.
Going to continue to see things go relatively inactive here in the first minute of the round. For the most part, Mirage just again building up that intel game that we were talking about a few moments ago. Now that they have assured themselves that second floor is clear for the using here, they're going to be able to open up the top-down angles. Tomas will be, of course, the priority on that one. And while a few other members start to position themselves downstairs, such as the area around Square here, to be able to open that back up. Before they can even move into Square, though, you do have Skies over towards Archives. Is going to cause some potential issues, so that'll need to be the primary focus here if they're looking to move that direction. Could be trying to play this around main stairs a little bit, too, but even there's issues lurking for Mirage to deal with. Fultz, of course, playing around the elevator bank, has the castle barricade and the double wall reinforcement, so you can't really mess with him from lobby side. However, look at this. Razor, he's dropped down the elevator, sitting directly next to this player now, and making this a very awkward situation for both teams.
Well, we'll see who wants to peek first. Tomas, he's going to drone things up, but do they drone the elevator? Yes, the double drone, in fact, and Fultz, he's going to try and hightail it out of here, but actually, it's a fake. The big brain play, still a ping inside of there. I don't know if it's active droning, though. We'll have to see. He's just going to throw a nade down the hallway, but does he bank a nade into the elevator? He will, and this is going to be a free frag for him as Fultz will be blown sky high. Razor now has control of the elevator hallway. He'll be able to use that Gemini to continue clearing out this space and assist Mirage with this late info game that could possibly get them more kills on the SSG squad.
Fultz taking a big risk indeed there to stay in position, and unfortunately does not pay off for him in this round. The good news is time has still been wasted, coming down to 20 seconds. How is Mirage going to work their way into the site? And now how are they going to deal with this rotation from Skies as he's worked himself upstairs and has suddenly pummeled their upstairs pressure? No one else is even having any success working their way in from Square side either. They're falling to pieces on the assault once again, and it's a near flawless round from SSG as they take control of the lead yet again.
A difficult round to watch for Mirage fans. It seems like they have everything they could possibly have wanted inside of that situation, but yet SSG just getting away with the bag there, especially for Skies, able to simply walk on up the lobby stairs, something that you should have a drone on for anybody that's dead to watch, but unfortunately not for Mirage. It's going to be a 3-2 lead now for SSG after that staff and open area defense.
Attackers need to locate. Things continue to teeter-totter back and forth. Will we go the full distance, though, or is a team finally going to be able to close out with some consistency? And that would have to be SSG out of anyone. If not, Mirage looking to bounce back and make this an even heat at halftime. But what would be a 3-3 scoreline, once again, though, going to be the upstairs hold for SSG, where once more, Mirage struggled to put enough pressure onto this site to properly execute inside of that final 20 to 30 seconds here, where they were left with really no option but to just try and force it, and they walked right into the setup, making it an easy day for SSG to clean things up.
And win or loss for SSG, they've been on the same site rotation throughout the entirety of their defensive half. Base, staff, and CEO. That's what they've been doing. Straight to the basement and then following that order on through. And, well, wouldn't you know, we're going to be ending inside of CEO in round 6 for them. So we'll see if their defense is as successful as it was last time with the Wamai play that we saw out of Fultz. Able to regather control of staff and rather stock and get his pick. And really put a thorn in the side of Mirage. Nothing really they could do, especially after the amount of time that they ended up delaying. Now for Mirage, they're out and about on the map, and they'll have the capability to start clearing things out. But is it going to be the same decision as last time, trying to work the stock in square space? Well, we'll have to see as they'll start working their way towards the balconies.
It's going to be slow and steady once again for Mirage, as like we had talked about a few rounds ago, Mirage has actually found a decent amount of success by relying heavily on their drone work and just a slow clear that suddenly explodes in the face of a few members of SSG when Mirage are ready to pounce here. But they've had limited success at actually executing upon that strategy, so no problem finding out what these setups look like and sussing out possible positions of members of SSG, but a little bit shaky so far on the follow-up for that, for actually clearing these players out of those positions. So that's where we still need to see improvements made for Mirage, and they can certainly do so here on this very round, where we saw a pretty default style of play on the last attack. You can already see it varying just a little bit here as they're prioritizing the square push a little bit more inside of round number 6, trying to make sure they can get their players in there, as well as clear out stock to put the appropriate amount of pressure onto this side of the map this time.
This is starting to look quite similar to what we'd seen from Mirage the last time, except a huge caveat. Fultz will get taken down around a very similar time to what we'd seen previously for his pick onto Marm. But now Mirage, they'll have some solid positioning over towards stock. Rampy's going to take some heat, but he'll take down Razor instead, down into the 4 versus 4 with 1:10 remaining.
Repel play is still going to be a problem for SSG, so they cannot lean out into the site too actively. Otherwise, they'll have to deal with that pressure from Tomas. Away from that, though, no secondary player that you would sometimes see in this type of a setup from the attacker's side here. It's just him. So the remaining 3 members of Mirage are trying to put all their presence in from either the square side, or as you're going to see now, a bit of a rotate from Tomas, as he's gone off the repel and is instead going to go in directly through the front doors to try and push himself in from the other side here. Away from that, there are 4 players from SSG are just tucked away in the site. Obviously got a small extension into Janitor for one of them, but away from that, they're sitting back doing the same thing they did back on round number 3, just waiting for Mirage to go in for the execute due to a lack of time, where they should be able to shut this down without too much of an issue. And that is more than likely going to become the case here, unless Mirage can once again change their fate with a good entry or 2, and they're going to have to use their drone game in order to build up the confidence to push towards that. But once more, Melted struggling here to line one up. Thankfully, Marm succeeds in knocking out Bosco, but Houghton immediately exchanges that out against Tomas by taking him down, so the numbers stay even at a 3v3, and there's no more time to step back and rethink about how to approach this execute. They've got to chuck down their smokes. They've got to go in right now, and it's not going very well. Rampy and Houghton both picking up kills. Marm should be able to get this plan off, as she's got a safe position to play from, but now she needs to go for the 1v3 clutch. Catches the first player moving in by the bomb chassis, but that's going to be hit. Rampy immediately knocks her out, and SSG will take the lead finally at 4-2 here as we end the first half.
Very well done there from both squads. Mirage able to force it in and get the plant down. Marm that close as well to killing the player inside of executive office. But either way, SSG looking very solid on these bank defenses. Mirage only able to muster 2 rounds there. We'll have to see what they could do on their defensive half. Overall, very impressed with what SSG did, especially those staff room and open area defenses. Really fun to watch.
Definitely the case, and now things will flip up, and it's going to be Mirage's turn to see if they can excel on the defensive side here and build up a bit more of a competitive scoreline, or if SSG will look to try and take full control at this point, as obviously they now have the advantage of attacker repick going onto that side, and we'll be able to quickly analyze things here, considering most teams will go towards either this side or open area to start their side off, though more than likely SSG already have a pretty good idea of what they need to bring to the table to handle this, and I doubt we'll need to see any major change-ups in the attacker lineup.
No, more than likely not. I mean, across the board, you have so many different options to use here. I mean, we're obviously going to have Sky switching off of the Maverick for the Knock instead. We talked a little bit about Knock when it comes to Bank yesterday, as we did have a ban. Oh, we're also going to have...
What is going on? Hold on. Wait a second.
Yeah, I was just getting into it, too. This is the thing about this, man. You start talking about one, and then they throw the whole kitchen sink at you. We're going to have Fultz come in with the Amaru of all things, and Houghton come in with the Lion. This is going to be a pretty sneaky, beaky play, folks. I think the biggest thing about this is, what's the strategy for Fultz overall? I can see this being used for a top clear and just getting top presence super fast, and that's exactly what they're actually going to do. Is they've got a drone up here already, but there should be an audio cue for them as he bursts through that window. So we'll see how they try and deal with that. He might have the distance on this player over here towards main stairs, and it seems almost as if he has, just based off the positioning of what the Mirage member is doing. So Fultz able to quickly grasp a hold of this top control, and this also could be a fake in a certain sense for SSG, as Fultz is upstairs, and they can sneak Skies in down low inside of Garage while they're all worried about the potential top clear.
Either way, a good strategy from SSG to kind of force the hand of Mirage, and more importantly, force the players that were on the second floor to rotate downstairs far too early here, as it's only about 10 to 15 seconds in the round that they have to give up those positions. We saw a much better job from SSG on their own defense using that, and now here we go. Skies on that knock, going to be able to sneak in and knock out Razor as no one spots him creeping in through the front lobby there due to the active ability of that operator.
Hard times right now if you're a Mirage fan, as they've lost yet another player. Not only that, but the most impactful one when it comes to the frag department for the current moment. 11 and 5, and now Hot and Gold dealing even more damage. Tomas will be taken down by the flash play. Still an EU1D in the back pocket of the Lion as well. This is looking like a pure dismantleization of this entire team for the defense. The SSG now still with plenty of time in order to clear out this entire map. I mean, you can just commit to the drone game now. They've only lost 2 drones this entire time.
Really great usage of attacker repick, I think, more than anything coming out from SSG inside of this run, showing us how powerful that can be if you find your opponent's strategy, and more importantly, find a very, very fast way to counter it out, as we've seen, most notably with the Amaru as well as the Lion pickup. But Skies going over to the knock certainly helps things as well, because of the pressure from the Amaru, forces those players down into the tellers area early on. That's where Skies comes into play, because he knows he can hide from the cameras that are going to be constantly watched from the front lobby side, and that gives him free access to tellers to find that pick that he did get.
Oh, some very serious damage coming out, but I think really going towards the SSG members that's going to affect them in any capacity. Possibly just not running through this smoke, but they've still got so much time in order to just wait these out. Melted does not have enough utility in his pockets to be able to stem off this plant. The last EU1D will go out. Freeze tag will be played for the last time for the defense as Benji takes some damage. Marmalade has the long angle, and this is going to be needing an occupied space here for some time as he'll drop down and attempt this plant. Fultz manning the door. Skies will take down Marm as he's sneaking down the main stairs. Has 2 to deal with. It's going to be a resurgence of the players as Benji will take down Skies. Nobody in this top floor, though, and I believe the hatches are actually all sealed, all except for the small hatch here inside the small office. Do have to worry about the blue player as well, as they're looking for any picks they can possibly secure.
Melted here, having to watch out for Rampy, panicking a little bit, but it looks like actually Benji might have got the final bullet onto Melted to down him. That, or there was a shot from someone in security that managed to take him down and bring him down to a null status here. And oh no, trying to bait the down body in order to get the trade, but it does not work out. And we will see another successful round picked up by SSG with a brilliant post plant from them. The aggression boiling out over towards the top of blue and preventing any retake from Mirage as they try to once again descend into the basement to get back control over the site.
Yeah, first offensive round, and not only do they have the opening kill, but they also have the plant. A fantastic round there from Space Station is, once again, just dismantling Mirage overall. Nothing really that they can do to try and fend that off either. Just locked down in every sense of the term. Even trying to rotate back up the main stairs and get control of open area and see what that can do for them inside of the post plant. But it was all for naught. A fantastic setup from SSG. Proves to be valid, and unfortunately enough for them, just not able to get it done. But when it comes to this tactical timeout, I feel like there is some adjustments that they can possibly make. For SSG, I mean, obviously the strategical book has been blown wide open for them. And this is kind of a extension from what we saw from yesterday. And you and I actually ended up talking about this. It would just be like Lycan to be the coach that's using this the most inside of NAL. And they're doing it yet again here and making things a very interesting show for us here at home.
And even away from the usage of attacker repick at the beginning of the round there. I mean, SSG's overall drone and sort of intel game was phenomenal there, because in the post plant, as soon as we saw that move from Mirage to move away from the open area hatches where they were initially trying to put the retake pressure out, and then they shifted that over towards blue, SSG was immediately there. Like Mirage hadn't even fully committed to their own rotate over to that point by the time that SSG had a player set up in security and over towards top blue. Obviously, again, had a 4v2 advantage, so it wasn't like that hard to figure that out, but still, props to them for catching that so quickly and just absolutely locking out Mirage from having any chance to retake that site. We've got 4 repicks, by the way, in case you didn't catch it for yourself. Quite a dramatic change once again from SSG, as a Ying, Ace, as well as a Zofia and a Dokkaebi are going to be switched in, with only Fultz keeping his original pick.
This is what I wanted to see out of attacker repick, because you can look at this operator lineup, and anyone that plays Siege regularly goes, okay, I know where this is going. You know what I mean? We've got a Dokkaebi, we've got a Ying in play, we've got 2 high-capacity LMGs. I mean, there's just so many ways that SSG can play this out. And wouldn't you know that Tomas is laying in the exact same position that we saw Hot and Cold lay in as his mute on their defensive side. He'll be all the way downstairs and trying to thwart SSG's game plan. But we'll have to see what they want to do with this. As of right now, they're setting things up on the north side. Skies will more than likely play the ATM Repel, as he does have that EBR, that DMR that can reach out there and deal some serious damage in only a single shot.
SSG at the moment prioritizing that repelled pressure, and we can see both Bosco and Fultz using their drones here to try to figure out where exactly they'll need to be watching out for any re-swings for the defenders as they try to put that pressure in from the repel themselves. Razor catches that drone working its way down through the upper square position and is going to try to shoot that out real quick. I think he fails to catch it, but either way knows that he has been revealed, and this is a pretty straightforward position, so he would expect his opponents to be fairly aware of this regardless. But now how does he follow it up, as the attackers, of course, have not brought the Hibana to the table, so you're not going to have to worry about that kind of X-Kairos minigame we were seeing the member from SSG that had maintained this position play in the previous half. He's going to be a little bit safer in that regard, but still will have to potentially deal with some form of hard breach. Meanwhile, though, as we go back over towards the site, the Candelas are already working their way in. Pressure is coming in from square side as Melted gets low, but he's able to return that pressure back at his opponents there. They tried to swing in, but it does not work out. The case goes down on the ground on the outside. Kills are going out all over the place, but they do fall into SSG's favor. Now that the dust has settled slightly, it'll come down to a 3v2. Tomas still looking to pick up one of his own kills as Melted also attempts to swing out at such low HP. It just hands a third kill over into Hot and Cold's part of the map, and he's going to be able to negotiate another one as he also finishes off the round by taking out Tomas.
He doesn't even flinch. Just ice in this man's veins right now. Just a simple 2K, and he's going to walk away from that engagement scot-free practically. Yeah, he takes a little bit of damage, but past that, it's going to be an SSG round, and that's going to be the 6th one, in fact, already on match points. SSG with a very destructive entry. I mean, Mirage are obviously able to fight back. We see a big kill come out of Razor there especially, but, I mean, that swing from the janitor closet, that was the one that really got me. Yeah. I don't really know what the breakdown is inside of the comms to have that happen, but on such low HP, challenging into an AK-12 like that, that's always going to be ill-advised.
It may have just been one of those things where it was such a chaotic situation. Everybody was just kind of making their own plays there, and the communication maybe was at a little bit of a fault, possibly for both teams. Obviously, Mirage ending up taking the brunt of the issues from that one as a result of that fact, but either way, so many different fights taking place in so many different positions. We saw the rappel fight going on, but there was definitely some pressure transpiring towards Stocks. I think we had a fight either towards the spiral stairs or someone downstairs happening at the same exact time as well. Stuff was crazy. Once the action started in that round, it really did not stop. So a little bit hard for Mirage to wrangle control over that situation, it seemed.
I don't know how you feel about this, but personally, I'm almost terrified for other teams going up against SSG because all we've seen is their bank.
On their attack, at least.
Yeah,
for sure.
Right?
I agree with you. Yeah.
It's. I mean, for other coaches, I mean, I would be writing down notes as quickly as possible. You know, get this attacker repick online and make sure your team is comfortable with it, because it's something that you can abuse time and time again in such interesting ways. Did you think we were going to be seeing Amaru today? Because I sure as hell didn't. So, I mean, when you get rounds like that just because of something that is, you know, just such a Swiss Army knife as a tool, it's really, really cool, especially for a game like Siege when we have such a wide variety of characters.
Razor gonna waltz right into open area here. Either it wasn't droned out or it was improperly droned because he's completely unaware of Fultz's position here behind the cubicles, and he's gonna be able to pop right out and take the head off of his opponent here, already giving SSG a 5v4 advantage on match point as well.
Something you usually see vice versa, the offender walking in through open area and getting caught off guard by somebody behind a cubicle. Not the other way around, but now for Mirage, down Razor, everyone else required to step up to the plate in a huge way.
Not to point out like the obvious unfortunate stat line here, but I mean look at the stats for Mirage here. 11 and 7 for Razor.
Melted just got his first kill the last round, I'm pretty sure.
Next highest is Thomas of 4 and 7. So losing Razor with 0 damage returned is not a good sign for Mirage trying to close this one out.
You know, I'm no dentist, but I'm just messing around. Either way, actually a big kill here from Marmalade, and Nitrocell is going to be able to pick up Skies. I don't exactly know how that one slipped through the cracks, but either way, very well done from her, and that's going to mean that most of these hatches are actually locked up. The Electro Claws will work extremely well for this position from Marmalade as well. They'll be able to open up the hatch inside of Elevator Hallway, so it looks like SSG already game planning here inside of the mid-round to make sure that they are on the same page and can still make an execution.
Mirage, of course, quickly catching on to this after they hear the hatches blow up. That'll move Thomas into position on smoke to start blocking this off with the Toxic Babes. Not the only access point for our attackers, though. You guys saw it at SI. Teams, especially from the APAC region, were somewhat of a fan of trying to push their way in through these elevator hatches, so it's certainly possible, but it is dodgy at best here. So we will have to wait and see if Hot and Cold, if the rest of SSG can leverage enough pressure from this side of the map to work their way in due to the unfortunate loss of Skies that happened earlier on. Marm with a big pickup there that's going to echo throughout the rest of this round, but a good start here now for SSG as both Rampy and Fultz strike true on their entries, knocking out 2 more players from Mirage. It's going to fall to Marm as well as Benji to clutch this one out. We will see a 1-for-1 exchange with a nade involved between Marmalade and Rampy, so now everything falls to Benji Mula to clutch this one out here. 15 seconds. He doesn't even have to get the kills. He just needs to delay the plant, work his way in here, and stop this timer from running out, but no, Plant's going to go down onto the ground. He does not have the cross, it seems. He nearly takes out his opponent with a pistol, but he just doesn't know where to go. Hotton gets the final kill of the game, and SSG shut it down.
A 7-2 victory for Space Station Gaming on their second bank of the stage, and Mirage simply just cannot do anything against these Titans of North America. And what a game it was for Space Station overall, but I'd really like to focus on Mirage and just what's going on for this team right now. Razor, I mean, he's looking really good, but past that, the rest of the team just really can't get anything going on. That last round, I think, is a great example. They make the right decision in knowing that the execution is moving towards the opposite side of the map, but they're not thinking to, the full breadth of the strategy, whereas SSG is like, okay, we're going to get these hatches open, but we're also going to apply pressure around the stairwell and get garage control. They're just not worried about these, offset angles that are really dealing some serious damage to them. Fultz should not have gotten that much done inside of that position. As soon as that changes over, that should be the first recognition that's going down, is they're going to try and cut us off inside of the garage space, and it just doesn't come together.
The reads are good for Mirage. They're making the proper moves. The problem is they're not giving those moves enough support to properly play out the rest of the round here. Things like trade setups and whatnot are just not happening, and as we saw there in that round, players like Tomas unfortunately getting bullied out of the way. No one else is there to watch those positions any further, so now the floodgates have suddenly been open for members of SSG to move in through multiple angles, and the other anchors on site, or anyone that might still be left at that point in the round, just has no point left in the fight or no capability to fight back in those types of situations. So unfortunate for Mirage. I'm going to hope that it's still kind of early days for this roster given the circumstances of how it came together, and they're going to need still a few more games to kind of get that team cohesion, lock it in nice and tight so that these players really know how to play off of each other, and they can really lock in the styles and possibly the roles too, if anything might need to switch up a little bit there. But either way, a solid performance coming out from both teams, just SSG showing themselves to be the better team, especially on the attacking side, and their usage of attacker repick has got to be the best out of all the NAL teams we've seen so far.
I would completely agree with you. Growing pains for Mirage, but some very bright days early on for Space Station Gaming. I'm loving everything that I'm seeing from this team, but I'm sure you guys are going to love this analyst desk and interview that we have just after this break. We'll see you in a couple of moments.
check it. Hey, check it. Put the place up. Put the place up, yeah, we know what we made of. Can't get enough of you, boo, I'm a chaser. Face up, now I feel a little major. Blink of an eye, ego, I'm a taker. Shaker, yeah, she was a ball shaker. She shake me out that door to no place. Damn, what you doing now?
Welcome back to NAL, everybody. Doa, Jacob, and Cookies here with you at the desk. We just witnessed Space Station Gaming get their second win in a row. Second win of the season, this time against Mirage. And we have none other than Bosco on the line with us all the way from Las Vegas. Actually, it's not too far. We're in LA. It's not too far at
Good
all.
4 hours.
Bosco, can you hear me? You're out there.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, congratulations on the win today. So, 2 wins already for Space Station Gaming. Things look pretty tight, frankly. You've got hot and cold out there getting like millions and millions of kills. So, I'd assume you're happy about the start. Is it everything you expected? Do you feel like things are operating up to the level you wanted to be at coming into the season, or do you feel like there's a little bit more work to do?
Well, to start off, I always think there's more work to do. I think there's a lot we have to put in to get to where we want to be. But I mean, starting off the season 2-0, you can't ask for a better start. So I'm proud of where we're at right now, and just got to keep putting in the work so we can hopefully get a 2-0 next week as well.
Give me the skinny from your perspective. We obviously talked to Hot and Cold about the whole IGL switch-up situation from yesterday, but from your POV, like how long ago was this something that you wanted to make a transition into? And so far, with 2 wins under your belt, how does it feel so far?
So the first part of that question, I wanted to transition into IGL back after, right when we picked up Matt, so after SI 2021 for the Mexico major. But like Matt mentioned, the roles just kind of, we couldn't make work that way, so I kind of just took the hit and was like, yeah, I'll play flank watch, I'll take on the role. We put Nate on hard breach, and it was working really well, so there was no reason to make a change or anything. And then when we picked up Alex, it kind of just made sense to keep things where they were rather than making another big change. So yeah, it's been a while that I've wanted to step into this role and be more active in the facilitator part of it. And then obviously, starting off the season 2-0, it feels really good. I've had a lot of positive words from my teammates telling me, that they think I'm doing a good job, and that the support from them has been great. So it's been a good ride so far, I'd say. Sorry, they were just screaming my name.
Well, I wanted to ask you about the map. Obviously, both you teams today played Bank yesterday. Why are you so confident going back to Bank again? Were you confident in what you saw from Mirage yesterday? Was it not concerning?
Yeah, I'm not trying to bash them or anything, so I'll keep it light. But it definitely wasn't a concern what we saw from their VOD yesterday. And we knew they had a VOD of ours, but I feel like we could put in, we could get more out of having a VOD rather than them getting more out of having our VOD. We had a lot of small little adaptations planned, and we didn't even get to use all of them. And, I think we even played the map better than we did yesterday.
Very cool. Nice to get the same map kind of go with the flow a little bit. But I'm going to ask something. Maybe this is kind of old and tired. It's been a little while, but the community still talks about it. Everyone's still talking about it. So I'm going to ask you anyway. When I say the word Canadian, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I don't know. Old teammate, Team IGL, team leader. Yeah. Not
All right, there you go.
Really sure what else to say.
There was a very neutral response. I respect that. All right. Well, thank you very much. Congratulations on the win today. Thanks for chatting with us for a little bit, Bosco. I'm sure we'll see you again real soon. Until then, happy practicing.
All right. Thank you.
All right. There you have it. Bosco from Team Space Station Gaming, getting that win over Mirage. And, the thing is that making it look academic, right? It really felt like we got kind of a lesson in tight Rainbow Six Siege in that one.
Yeah, and I also agree with this point about thinking that his support staff would be able to make better use of the VOD from yesterday than Mirage's support staff would. Not necessarily a knock towards the things that Mirage could or could have done with that series, but you're talking Lycan, Sav, and Luke all in the background for SSG being able to convert that bank win into something that can substantiate across multiple maps. And that did, even in moments where it felt like Mirage had a little bit of an inkling of something, like they were forcing SSG into some tight corners, forcing them to kind of rethink about how broad their defenses needed to be. That was an adaptation that SSG still made pretty quickly. So yeah, I think that point from him was pretty spot on.
All right, fair enough. Let's take a look at some of the stats that came out of that round, see what the numbers have to say. Now, there was one thing that kind of stood out to me on the Mirage side of things, and that's Razor putting down a pretty decent score line, honestly. Like, he was getting the frags at least.
At least on attack. I mean, when he made the shift back over to, we didn't see that many defensive rounds because of how fast the game went, but
seriously,
9 kills, or 8 or 9 kills through the first 3 to 4 rounds, I think, when he was playing Yana, and then switched to Mozzie, and it was more the same from yesterday.
Well, the route stuck out of me on their defense. He comes crouch walking in the open area, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to make a play, right? Because he was the only heartbeat for his team. Let's be real. I mean, numbers don't lie in this case.
Fair enough.
He tries to crouch walk in open area and make something happen to his Mozzie. He's got the yellow uniform on, and then Fultz is under a desk like there's an earthquake drill going on or something. That's Finka just sitting there. And I was telling Jacob, I was like, dude, if that was me and I'm Razor and I die like that, like I hit the escape key and my fingers on return to desktop, not the menu, return to desktop. Matter of fact, I'm just Alt F4ing at that point.
Yeah.
That's just beyond frustrating, and it really tells the story of the whole match. Like,
it
so
came
close,
on the last
but so
round
far.
too. Like, you just know that was kind of the nail in the coffin for Mirage's mental based upon how the rest of the game went. So yeah, I totally agree.
It's like an escape. It's like return to bedroom, scream into pillow.
Why did they go this way? I mean, Mirage, I feel like it's still a team that has it's not all lost. Funnily enough, they actually have more rounds won than the Sonics do, in spite of having the same record. So technically, by only the number of rounds won, that makes Mirage a better team than the Sonics. But I also think that it's a series of correctable mistakes. They don't really look like a lost cause, because we're talking about Razor having a good game today. He was bottom of the table for his team from yesterday. Nice to see a switch up, but it's still, again, it's not the kind of thing where you have to worry about it so much. You just need to not play bank again. I think that might be the kryptonite.
Yeah, I would say 2 times in 1 week, 2 times in 2 days. You just back to back. I was like, all right, let's try something else. Try a different map.
Well, Mirage seems to be a puzzle that they haven't quite figured out how the pieces all fit together yet. But they've got a whole season to do that. And let's take a look at one round in particular that went well for Space Station Gaming. Now, this revolves around a counter pick of sorts. We had the Warden come in on round 6 to try to counter a smoke plant, and that's exactly what they ended up being able to do with it.
Yeah, but it revolves very heavily around this Janitor push in particular. They'll try to smoke it off and obscure Skies' line of sight, but he's there playing Warden. He'll be able to see when it goes down. Funnily enough, this entire strategy revolves around utilizing that Warden in Janitor to ensure that the plant never happens, but they have to push Janitor successfully. So you're pushing from that door, you're doing it from meeting, maybe holding a cross angle if there's like the wall open from Trump, right? So if you've got all those angles on Janitor, then you can make sure that when the Warden peeks to try to stop the kill, he gets his head taken off.
Right.
But because that Janitor push doesn't work and because the smoke is still there obscuring everyone's vision except Skies, it means he's still able to get the kill, but only after, or the SSG can get the kill, but only after the plant has actually been successful.
I guess to be fair, yeah. I mean, the plant did happen, but, you get the round win anyway, so you kind of brought it back around, I guess. Yeah. But let's wrap this one up. So final thoughts, Space Station Gaming versus Mirage. It was a quick affair. Any last words about that one, Cookies?
Well, I think one thing we kind of glossed over as well, I mean, Melted, he did go. The scoreboard got changed around a little bit. It's no longer 007, it's 07 now. But it was 007.
That's true. He had a James Bond moment.
Yeah, and I want to just say it's like Melted really struggling to find like a position to play, kind of struggling to flank watch. I'm telling you right now, he's not a hard support, and they have the main Fragger Terminator player they want in Razor. So what do they do now?
It's a bit of an unknown. I think it is interesting knowing that Melted could have stuck with the Parabellum roster a little bit and maybe even performed in a somewhat similar capacity. Don't want to harp on his decision like too much for right now, but
sure.
I'm looking at a Mirage team that even though it might have talented players on it right now, doesn't really know the best way to utilize them. And again, I think for both teams, I want to see them play something that's not bank before making a really base assumption about them, because, you know, get 3 games under our belt and we'll have a more complete picture.
Yeah, I mean, it's still early on. You got the rest of the week until the next matches get started to kind of go back to the drawing board, you know, rework the golf swing a little bit, as it were, and come back next week strong. We'll see if they can do just that for now. Space Station Gaming did get the 7-2 victory over Mirage. But guess what? We have a banger of a match coming up. It's going to be Oxygen versus Astralis. It is going to be the champ killers of Monday, of day number 1. We'll see who's able to keep that momentum going through day number 2. Don't go anywhere. The Rainbow Six North American League comes back in just a few minutes.